Welcome back everyone. So this is session 11 of season 2, and in this session we are going to apply those final changes to our mini project. So this is our second mini project and we are about to finish it, and there are some little small changes remaining and one bug fix. The bug fix is the first thing that we are going to start with. And if you take a look at this, I cannot click on France, Canada, Brazil now because these circles are on top of that. When the circles go small, now I can click on that. So this is the first bug that we want to fix. I mean, this bug is the first thing that we are going to fix in this session. So let's start by that. So in order to find the problem, well, whenever you are facing a bug, your best friend is inspect element tool. So we can start by using this inspect element tool, and you can see this is the we have a div called REPL background, and inside this div we have so many other divs, and these divs are having an animation. They go growing big, growing smaller, and things like that. So I'm trying to find something in the CSS and see, because I think that these ripples are coming on top of these France, United States, Brazil, France, and that's why we cannot click on them while these things are coming on top of that. So you see, now I cannot click on that. So do you remember what z-index was? When the two layers go on top of each other, when we are using position, absolute, relatives, things like that. In previous season, we covered that. The thing with having a bigger z-index goes on top. What do I mean by that? Let's see an example here. Let's see, for example, here, and let's find, I want to find, let's, beside this save button, it doesn't matter where, let's have a for example, div with a class of test1, and we write test1, and we create another div called test2, test2, and we wrap them all inside a div called class test. I'm trying to create an example here so that you can understand. If you forgot about z-index, understand this z-index once more. Test divs, I call it test divs. So let's come back here inside our CSS codes, and inside this CSS code, I first of all select this test divs. Okay, we have a test divs here. I'm going to make the position of this to relative, okay, and this test1 and this test2, okay, let's come back here, dot test1, the position is absolute, so as test2. Okay, for the test one, I'm giving a background color of red, okay, and for the test 2, I'm giving a background color of yellow, okay, and for both of them, for both test 1 and test 2, I give them a width of 50 pixels and a height of 50 pixels. Okay, we could have wrote these similar properties in another class, but anyway. And another thing here, the width and height here. And for both of them, again, they all have some similar properties. I hold down the Alt key and say that the top should be 0 and the right should be 0. So what happens is, we come back here, hit refresh, we can see that this is our test divs, and this is our test 1, and this is our test 2. They are in the same place, and since test 2 is coming after test 1, so that's why we are seeing test 2. But what if we want to make test 1 come on top of the test 2. That's where we use z index. For example, and now test 2 is on top, right? I can go ahead and give a z index to test 1, z index, and put that on, for example, 2. Z index, you apply a number to this, a number that you like. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, anything. And when something has a bigger z index, so this one has no z index, well, we may think that it's 0, or yeah, we may consider that as 0. Because if you make the z index on 1, still test 1 is, so the default value for z index is on 0. But when I come here and say test 1, your z index is 1, well, 1 is bigger than 0, so that's why we see the red one here now. And if we come back here, make the z index of this one to 3, of course we see the yellow one, or even 2. Of course, again, still we see the yellow one. And if we make that, so the point is clear now. The bigger the z index, the more priority you have. So that's the formula. But there's another important fact. See, we were comparing two elements that these both elements, both test 1 and test 2, they both have a non-static position. Because if you remember, the default position for any CSS element is the position is that static. But for these two, we have changed the position to absolute. Let's imagine that we have another div. Let's duplicate this one and the test 3 here. And this test 3, we have, let's create another thing here, test 3. But this test 3, this also has a width of 50 pixel and height of 50 pixel. The background color is actually, for example, green, but the position is static. It's not absolute or anything. We didn't change this position anything. So we come back here, hit refresh. We can see that test 1 is on top, and of course test 1 should be on top because it has a z index of 1000 and it's bigger than them all. Let's imagine that I come here and create a z index and make it 5000. So of course 5000 is bigger than 1000, but still we are seeing the red one. Why is that? Because the reason is when the position of something is static, the z index is meaningless for that, and well, the non-static elements always come on top of static elements, and it doesn't matter what the z index is. So this is the point. This is the point that helps us to solve this bug. So here, come here, see, you can see these ripples here. Let's inspect elements on these ripples here. And you can see they all have a position of absolute, all of them. This div, this div, this div, this div, all of them. But this div here that we have, this form that we have here, it does not have a position. The position of this form, this green form that we have, is static. So that's why this will always come on top of this no matter what. So let's solve this problem. So let's delete these tests that we had, because I wanted these tests to prove a point for you. And now clean them all. So first of all, we cannot solve the problem with z index. For example, let's see here. If we go ahead and apply this general form that we have, see this is our general form, right? If we go ahead and apply a z index to this general form of ours, let's see, okay. If we go ahead and apply a z index of 2, okay, it doesn't solve the problem because, well, the position is it's telling us that the position is static. Z index is meaningless for this one, so that's why it still does not solve our problem. Although the z index is now, the z index of this general form is bigger than the ripples here, these circles, still the problem is not solved. So we can actually solve that by applying a position of relative to general form, and applying a z-index of 2. So we can come back here in our general form. So first of all, we can apply a position. Sorry, this come at that here we have that problem with auto indent, and we need to fix that soon. And the z-index, we are going to put the z-index on 2. So let's come back here, hit refresh, and sure enough, now the problem is fixed because the z-index of this div is bigger than the other one. So there's something else here. Now that we changed the z-index, and let's come back to the codes, and put the z-index on 2 and position relative, let's comment this a little again. You see, these ripples are going under our form. And now hit refresh. Now that we refresh that, we see the ripples under that. See, it's kind of visible now. It's kind of visible when we comment those codes. Let's uncomment that, hit refresh. Now it's not visible under that. So it's up to us. If this is what we want and this is what we are pleased with it, we can leave the code and like this and go, and this is just fine. But if we want these ripples to be visible, well, we need to apply this position relative and z-index, not to the whole general form. We can only apply that to these columns here. See, because these columns here, let's see, we had a class of columns for these things. See, we can apply this to the column class only if we want to have that result. So let's see here, column. This is the only column. So let's paste what we have inside our clipboard and select these columns here and move these two to this here. Okay, and let's fix the indentions, and this is it. Let's come back here, hit refresh, and now the ripples are visible, and but still we do not have that bug, and this is completely clickable. So this is what I'm going to continue with. I like to see the circles or ripples, whatever you call it, and still manage to click on these links. So we solved the bug here, and we are good to go to the next step. And the next step is actually I am going to fix our CSS comments here. See, we are going to finalize this season, and I am going to apply the final minor changes to this one. The first thing that I want to do is to fix my commentings here. You see, usually some people use some characters like this, for example, in their comments in order to make each section more visible, because when we are going through the CSS code, now the CSS code is growing bigger and it's going a lot. It's good to have a big comments inside your code, some things like that. So see, things like that would actually, I believe, help us in order to see. I think it's better. So for the comments that we have, and apply more space between our comments, things like that. This is actually a good habit, and I think you should have this habit as well, because so this is our adding font section, this is our general selector section, this would be our animated background section, right? And this animated background section is going to finish, and this is a part for our form customization. So this is it. And the comments, so this is we should check that we have a proper commenting in our CSS and actually have a good looking code. So this is it, and this is the other thing that I wanted to fix. So this is customizing our date picker, and this is it. To have some comments in our CSS section, and go ahead and feel free to check if you even want to make more section, if you want to organize your CSS codes better. I have created some sections, but even it's even possible to create more sections and more comments in your CSS code, and this is something that it's a good idea to have. So this is it, and this is the second thing that I wanted to fix. And the next thing, the next thing is pretty much simple. I'm just going to apply a margin top or a padding top to this btn container that we have. And also something to mention here right now, this before and after thing that we have is something that we haven't yet covered, but don't worry, we will cover this after and before pretty much. And this is something called pseudo element. We talked about pseudo classes, things like focus, like hover, things that we had, but there's something else also called pseudo elements, and this pseudo element is something that we will cover. Don't worry, but if you saw that, I just wanted to mention that this is nothing, something very strange or thing. We will cover that. Don't worry about this after and before. But anyway, this btn container is something that I'm going to select and apply a margin top or a padding top. It doesn't matter to that. So because I want this save button to come a little downer. So let's go ahead and find that btn container here in our css code, and it's inside the form customization section. Also, I think it needs to be relocated to the btn section that we have, that bottom section. Yes, I think this is the right place for this one, and I'm going to apply a padding top to this one, and the padding top should be like 20 pixels. I think 20 pixels is a good number. So come back here, hit refresh, and this is it, and we're good to go. And the most important thing before finishing up is the indention. Well, let's first of all see what's wrong with our indentions here. See, in my CSS file, I already talked about that, so we can go inside our settings here. In settings here, there was something called tab size, okay? Or tab, yes, this is tab size actually, tab size. See, when we are writing some codes, for example, here, see, for example, I am writing some codes, and here, for example, I write something and I create a new div here. I hit enter, and now as you can see, there is a space from here, this indentation, and this indentation is actually as much as 4 characters space. See, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is completely fine, and it's okay completely. So my tab size is 4, and 4 is a number that I am okay with and feel comfortable. But some people use the tab size on 2, and so the tab size is on 4. For the HTML files that I have, it's completely working, and it's working properly for the HTML files. But for the CSS files here, when I, for example, hit enter, I want to write something and append another property. When I hit enter, you can see that the place that I'm typing here is actually as much as, I don't know, maybe 2 character spaces. Yes, it's as much as 2 character spaces. The indentation is messed up, and we need to fix this. So let's first of all, because I have no idea where the problem is, so in this case, when you have no idea what the problem is, you can just actually search for that. We can search indention CSS files VS Code. This is at least something that I can start with and see how can I fix that, how can I find the problem. And let's open some things here, and you can see not indentation, tab size actually is something that I need to search. There's something here, and for this one it says you can go in VS Code. We have something called settings.json, and be very careful when you are editing this file, and you can find this file in file in settings and actually in settings, let's clean that. In extensions here, there was something called edit in JSON. Yes, edit in settings.json. This is the settings.json file, and all the settings of VS Code is in here. And be very careful while editing this file, because if you mess around, you have problems here. And it's just telling us that here in settings.json you can actually add these sections. Maybe this is what it's telling us. And it's saying that for Sass, JS, HTML, editor.tab size, and here's a comment with 41 pluses. It says you need to add editor.detect indention false. This is something that you can add to your let's try that to see if it actually helps us. And where to add that, we can say inside our editor. So editor.font family is here, and we can set another thing called editor. And remember, the structure of this JSON file is double quote, this and some value. The value, if it's text, should be inside still double quote, and the comma. The format, just be careful for the format, because if I don't type that comma here, the structure will be messed up. And if you want to edit this settings.json, make sure that you know what the structure of JSONs should be, and have some information about JSON structures. So this is it. Let's add this one here. And actually it fixed it. Yes, actually it fixed it. I had no idea. Let's go and give him another plus here for this guy. I haven't logged in. Maybe I need to log in future, and I will give a plus to this comments. And actually this is saved it, because maybe there's something that it goes editor and detect indention. Yes, set the detect indention to false, and the problem got fixed. Yes, this is, and now we have that. Maybe yes, the space is on 4. So everything is okay, everything is great. I never thought, because it usually doesn't happen when you search something, when you face a problem in a programming world, usually the first thing that you try out, it does not work. You go for the second thing, you go for the third thing, you keep on trying, and finally come up with something that works. And for this one, the first thing that I tried out did actually work. So this is a great thing. Okay, this is it. So I applied those minor changes that I wanted and fixed everything that I was looking for in this session, and everything is great. The project is actually finished. We have finished everything. So this would be one last remaining session. So we have this was session 11. We will have a session 12, and in that session 12 we summarize what we learned, and we will even introduce some more attributes, some more some additional data for you to have before leaving this season, finishing this season. And you need to have some information about forms, and we need to finish everything in the next session. So this is it. That's enough for this session. Hope to see you in the next session, which is the last session of this season 2. So this is it. Bye bye.